Hi, everybody. I'm going to play you some songs that only Hillsburn has heard before. These are all going to be songs off the new record. I'm going to start with one called Pain. Come home and stay the night. Nothing's this black and white. Dim the bedroom light if you can hear me. Get the dog to bark. Why's everything so hard? All the pain I had is unraveling now. All the pain I had, I'm pulling thread by thread to raise my debt. Every day I'm getting better. I know every day I'm getting better. I know every day I'm getting better. I know I am. I've tried the booze, the bells, paid charlatans for spells. What the day repels just rises rested, waiting in the dark. Why's everything still so hard? All the pain I had is unraveling now. All the pain I had, I'm pulling thread by thread to raise my debt. Every day I'm getting better. I know every day I'm getting better. I know every day I'm getting better. I know I am. Still, I'd rather be someone who loved. Still, I'd rather be someone who loved. All the pain I had is unraveling now. All the pain I had is unraveling now. This is another new one off the record that will be available someday, at some point. This one's called Hasha. We went back to our hometown. Used to know it blind just by the sound. The wind off the lake here, and the way people talk. What a shock to hear it again. Hasha, hasha, darling. Let me sing you a little song before it all goes wrong. Ooh, hasha, hasha, darling. It's a beautiful life, everything's alright. See it now, it's place. In the theaters of our youth vacant space, you say the colors have faded, all the faces have closed. I propose and you pat my head. Hush, darling. Let me sing you a little song before it all goes wrong. Oh, hush, darling. It's a beautiful life, everything's alright. Here's the house where I grew up. Someone's selling it for nothing, boarded shut. But we break in the back door, sleep in 2 different rooms, while the loons call to satellites. Hush, darling. Let me sing you a little song before it all goes wrong. Ooh, hush, darling. It's a beautiful life, everything's alright. Morning as you float downstairs in your Corbin shirt and underwear. There's sun through a window, but there's rain in the air. I wish I could flip some switch, make the simulation real and glitch, have it melt all around me, try it over again. What a shame there's no going back. Hush, darling. Let me sing you a little song before it all goes wrong. Ooh, hush, darling. It's a beautiful life, everything's alright. Hush, darling. Let me sing you a little song before it all goes wrong. Ooh, hush, darling. It's a beautiful life, everything's alright.
So normally when I start these interviews, we start at the beginning, but I think in given the 2 songs that you just played, I think we have to start a little more recently. Um, Tell me about recording those songs. Obviously, it's a really weird time to be in Hillsburn.
I'm so nervous and also excited to share the story of this record with people. Like, this is the first anything to do with music since we made the record that I've done or any of us have done. So it's exciting. We made the record in March in Vancouver. We were there for a month working with a producer named Howard Redekop. And we were supposed to be there for 5 weeks. And the last week we had to come home because of everything. And the 4th week we were there, and the last half of the 3rd, we were doing like social distancing in the studio and like going one at a time to the studio and like dropping each other off so that there wasn't more than like 3 people in the space at a time. And but it's interesting, like the songs on this record are eerily reflective of what's happening in the world right now. So when we were recording it, and like everything with COVID was like quite a bit earlier in BC. So we were there, like when we got there, everything shut down. And we were like, what do we do if we get stuck here? And we got like, we're in this like super expensive Airbnb, and like we can't afford to get stuck past the time. So every day it was like, do we go home? Do we stay? Do we go home? Do we stay? Like, what do we do? And I think that like really played into the album and like what it's about. And I just found it so interesting because it was not part of the plan. And then every song that we recorded, I was like, whoa, this is about the world and right now, what's happening right now. Like, this one is about that too. Oh my God.
Yeah, and it seems like there would be, you're able to reimagine the meanings of those songs given this new kind of world that we're living in.
Totally. I think that this normally Hillsburn's kind of thing is like big, yelling, high energy.
Yeah,
And this album is like, I mean, these obviously are quite stripped down versions of those songs. Um, but it's a more down album than the last ones in an, I think, an interesting way. Like I think every song we tackled from a what does this song need, not what would Hillsburn do, you know?
yeah.
Um, and it was a really interesting process, and I think that the result is maybe going to surprise people, which is kind of cool. I don't know. I'm excited.
I I really love that. Yeah, a band can like mildly reinvent itself album to album, and choose to do things not because of what's expected to them, but because of what they want to do artistically. So
Yeah.
that's a really great thing.
And yeah, and I think like we all have such differing opinions on things that we were kind of able, and also having a producer that helped a lot too.
Yeah,
Like what serves the song, what sounds, what do you need, what do you not need. Having that extra voice in the mix was really really helpful. Um, and I think people need to be soothed right now. They don't need to be yelled at right now. And I think I'm like generally my tendency is to be like big and like "Wah," in your face, but I feel like I've learned a lot from this pandemic.
yeah.
Like I've learned to like sit and be quiet, and it's wild.
So the obviously the recording for this new album has been extremely difficult, or not even difficult, but extremely different than the recording of The Wilder Beyond and In the Battle Years that you guys produced really by yourself, recorded by yourself, and had full control over. What do you feel that that's changed maybe in the way that you guys arranged or wrote the songs?
I mean, pretty much everything about this is different than the last record, which is kind of cool. But we've been working on these songs for about a year and a half now, and rearranging them. Some of the songs on the record have gone through like 25 arrangements, and we were sending them to Howard, the producer, months and months and months in advance, and he would send us notes back, and then we had a week of pre-production in Vancouver before we even started recording the songs. And so interesting to have someone just sit there and listen and be like,
Yeah,
I don't like that part. Make it different. Here, let's try this. So some of the parts on the record wouldn't have existed without Howard, and that's really cool. So yeah, I mean, it was just different, but I think we all learned a lot, like about each other and playing music, and um, yeah, it's just very exciting.
so when you guys played Making Waves in 2018, it was pretty fresh off of the release of The Wilder Beyond,
hmm
um, and I think maybe like that album really kind of nailed an audience. I found like you guys have kind of had a lot of momentum right from the start. Regardless, your first EP in 2015 kind of went on the Canadian folk scene, which is kind of unheard of for a self-released, self-recorded, really stripped down album. And then your second album, hit some more regional stuff with ECMAs and stuff like that. But then Wilder Beyond, I found when we were getting ready to put together our lineup, it was everywhere. You couldn't avoid it. It was like the hot album of the ECMAs that year. People were really really excited about that. How do you feel like the transition from the Wilder Beyond to your new record? Um, like did people kind of embracing the Wilder Beyond leave any expectations on you guys or pressure on you guys to write in a certain way, or did you just shed that off and say, we're still just going to do what we do?
I think that this question will be more easily answered once the record is released,
Yeah,
because I think that there was a lot of discussion between us, like, okay, yeah, but we have to add harmony, and we have to like do this and we have to do that because that's what we do.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like pushing and pulling and like, okay, but yeah, that's what we do, but is it the best thing to do, even
Yeah.
though that's like, so yeah, it was very much like a part of the discussion, and I think we'll have a better answer once people hear it, because I think there will be a lot of things that like there's way less violin on the record. I'm mostly just singing now. I guess I'm playing the guitar. This is a new thing in my life. But yeah, I just feel like yes, it dictated some decisions, but also we took those decisions into account, but also didn't like um, give in to them every time.
That's awesome.
And I'll be interested to see. I feel like with the state of the world right now, people are more willing to be receptive to new things because everybody's having to reinvent their lives. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how the reaction is with that in consideration.
Yeah, I'm really excited to listen to it because it seems like a fresh take on you guys as a collective.
Mm-hmm.
So let's backpedal a little bit and kind of get in with some of your stuff. What are some of the earliest memories for you about music when you were growing up?
I have literally been playing music my entire life. I started playing the fiddle when I was 5. I my earliest memory of playing music is I used to play. Our family used to play these like old time seniors dances when
Wow.
I was like the first time I ever performed. I played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star to a group of like 75, 80-year olds, which is hilarious to think about. But yeah, I've been playing music my whole life. I've just like always had that like certainty
Yeah.
about like this is the thing that I do. I'm good at it and I love it and I'll just be obsessed with it for the rest of time. Um yeah, I don't know. It's sort of like it sounds cheesy, but it is a little bit like eating and breathing. Like it's just
Yeah.
I just do it. I don't know.
And as I mean, you come from a musical family. Your brother Clayton is also in Hillsburn, and you
Hmm.
guys recorded an album together that is so drastically different than.
You know, it's wild actually. That picture back there is a plaque that my parents made me of the album cover from that
That's awesome.
instrumental album.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very like traditional fiddle and guitar.
Yeah,
It's a really interesting dynamic between that and Hillsburn for sure.
totally.
How like growing up in a musical family, how did that like you must have seen so much encouragement to pursue music and art as something that you can work with.
Totally. I think I didn't actually start thinking about like trying to be a professional musician, whatever that means, until I was faced with this decision of like I have to go to university or like I should go to university. What do I want to study? And the only thing I'm interested in is music, but I only play the fiddle, and you have to go to like Ireland basically to study fiddle in university. So I started playing classical music, and my mom actually used to be an opera singer, and she did a music degree at Dal. And so when I started expressing interest in that, she was like, "Oh, great, let's do it. Let's get you a classical violin teacher." And so I think music in my house, like I grew up in a family of 4. It was just like my dad's one of those people that can just play every instrument without trying. It's very annoying. But yeah, I don't know. It was just always a thing. House. You think big, you make it work.
Yeah.
Which is great because I think that that's like you can get the good job and you can get the nice house and you can be miserable. So
Yeah.
it's better to be happy and do something that doesn't pay well.
I 100% agree there. I think that's a motto within my family as well, is that all the money in the world doesn't change how happy you're going to be, right?
Yeah.
So
And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people come to this conclusion in the next couple months.
I think it's been coming a long time for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So playing music from early years, when was it that you got interested in like songwriting and stuff like that?
Well, actually, Joe, I actually haven't written any songs until this year.
Wow.
Paul writes all of our songs,
Yeah.
and he's incredible. And I've always been, my main thing is I'm really good at like learning things. Like I can learn a song really well, and I'm really good at performing. Those are my things.
Yeah.
But writing instrumental music, no problem.
Yeah.
I've done that forever, but writing songs with lyrics, I didn't actually start doing that until this year, and I would say I'm very much so a beginner at it. So I can't really say too much about it, honestly. But I'm hopeful about it. I think it's really fun and a really impressive skill to have.
But even like the way that you're arranging music or writing instrumental music, um, was there a certain point where you were listening to music or performing and saying that, oh, I want to be, I want to be able to create rather than just kind of repeat?
Yeah, I think for me, big time in my music degree,
Yeah.
because studying classical music is very much so learn this thing that some person wrote 200 years ago perfectly, exactly how they played it, and then you are correct. And that's a little bit draining, I
Yeah.
find. And so, like, right after I graduated music, Clayton and I ended up going to Hillsburn to hang out with Paul, and he had all of these songs. I'm sure, like, this is part of our blurb now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, how the band started. But it's true, like, I didn't really have, I sort of had my blinders on a little bit in terms of like songwriting and that kind of stuff. And so I think like the very beginning of Hillsburn really in 2014 was when I sort of opened up my eyes to like this world of whole other world of music that is completely separate from the world that I was a part of. And I have learned so much about like creating with other people.
Yeah.
I mean, Clayton and I have played music together literally our whole lives, and that's like something that I feel I'll probably be doing for the rest of my life. Like we just play music really well together,
Yeah.
and that's really cool. And I I I love how we're able to just like go together into like new musical worlds. Like we made that
Yeah.
album, and then literally like 6 months later we were doing Hillsburn, and we decided to let that project go because this one felt better. But it
Yeah.
was like still me and Clayton doing a thing is totally different, but I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to answer that question because I don't think it was like one thing, but I feel as if like over the last 6 7 years I have like found myself in that world, learning a lot and like just being really inspired by everybody else around me.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at it as a trajectory from when you guys began Hillsburn in 2014, so I've, done enough research to kind of go back, and maybe some of the people that are listening or watching wouldn't know the history so much, but you guys form as, you start jamming together as a four piece with Jackson, Paul, you, and Clayton. Um, Paul has a bunch of songs. You guys put something together, and it's like, oh, this feels really good. And then you start as really a folk band, and
Yeah.
then Claire joins the band. It gets a little more rocky because of that. Then obviously with The Wilder Beyond, it moves into that like indie rock kind of sphere, stuff like that. How do you find not only how the music's changed over that time, but your collaborative approach? It's not just learning a song by Paul, it would be now you're contributing more to those.
Totally. I think a lot in this last process of this record, like we spent so much time arranging these new songs, like and Paul was just like more so like writing outlines of songs and writing song structure, sending it to us without lyrics. So most of the songs didn't actually have full lyrics until like the week before we recorded them
Awesome.
because we were changing them so often that Paul was like, I'm obviously not going to write full sets of lyrics for these songs if we're rearranging them, which makes total sense. So that was kind of a cool process. Really, really difficult for me as the singer to like sing gibberish lyrics for like a year and a half straight. It was
Yeah.
definitely a struggle for me, and everybody in the band knows that. But the end result is kind of just, to me, it feels like breathtaking to like listen to the record. Like we just finished mixing it and I listened to it from start to finish, and it's just like so many things happened to make that record the way it is.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like let's just go record these songs that Paul wrote. It was like like a year and a half of just like grinding and like, no, that part's not exactly right. I listened to it for a week. We got to change it,
Yeah.
So you go back and you like figure it out. So I think the attention to detail on this record was simultaneously excruciating and also like the reward is just so great. It feels like, I think I got off track there a little bit, but
No,
oh
no.
well.
I think what I've heard as a listener, so I didn't hear the first EP until after I had heard um, In the Battle Years. In the Battle Years was my first introduction. Actually, I think it was the video for um maybe Rundown where you guys are on the bus.
On the
Um,
bus, yeah.
yeah, so I think that was my introduction to Hillsburn. And that's a very, abrupt, like raucous, anthemic song. And then to go back and listen to the EP where it's a little more like really not that.
No.
And then,
I mean, when we made that EP, we'd been in band for like a month.
yeah.
We were babies.
And then to move into Wilder Beyond is completely different. So I see that that timeline of collaboration where like each of you kind of starts putting something into the sound a little bit more. So it's been
Yeah.
interesting as
It's
a
definitely
listener.
cool. Well, I'm glad that comes across because that is exactly what's happening. And I think this record feels like what you were saying is totally true. Like we were just kind of like figuring it out. And it felt like with the Wilder Beyond, like that was the record that we figured out who we were in. And then this one we kind of like went into it being who we are and just chilled out a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it feels more settled, less frantic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because that's like the goal as a human. To just kind of chill out in yourself.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do.
So at this point, you guys have been together for 6 years and released a couple of albums. You've done touring all across Canada, um, and you've really kind of hit the ground as to who, or really formalized kind of who you guys are as a collective unit. What is it that keeps the band fresh?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we, one of the main things, we're all kind of in it at the same level. Like we're all very dedicated to it. And I think we all like respect each other's musical opinions, and also we just respect each other and like each other, and that helps.
Yeah.
Like we're all sort of connected outside of the band. I don't really know, honestly. It's a funny thing being in a band. It's like being in a relationship, like a platonic relationship or like a family that you chose, but that you have to like do everything with. It's very strange. Like sometimes you don't see each other and then you're literally just like on top of each other for months at a time. And the longer we're together, the easier it is to kind of navigate that. I think like we learned, when Claire joined the band, we had to learn how to have another personality in the mix, and that was really hard. You learn like who needs coffee before you can speak to them. Who, if they say this, they really mean this, and that kind of stuff. It's like being in any relationship, you have to like learn how to communicate. And I think after having done that, like obviously it's still every relationship requires work. Like that's just part of being human. But I don't know. I just think we know each other better, and we're all good people. That helps.
That's a great way to put it. So one of the fun questions, or one of the fun thoughts that I had, looking through pictures of not only from Making Waves or stuff like that, is how animated you are on stage. And you've made light of that as well many time on social media or something along that line. Um, I think that it's something that maybe is quite endearing to the audience, that you know
That's good.
it, it is seeing somebody who just feels like that, like they're exploding with passion and with enthusiasm towards the performance. What do you feel that, like, each of you individually bring to the performance, that like that captures that energy or that group dynamic?
Oh, I don't know. It's been so long since we played a show.
Yeah.
Like we were on an off cycle anyway. We weren't touring and then this happened, so like I don't know. For me it's like I it just kind of happens. I don't know. I just like I get this like Bernie feeling and then I just have to like run around and scream a bunch and I don't it just seems to work and like Clayton's really intense when he performs like he doesn't do what I do but he's like really like rah, and he stomps his feet really intensely and Jackson's like very stoic
Yeah.
but it's just cuz he's playing like 18 instruments at once. But also he's mostly just like that anyway. He would be perfectly content to just play music silently in his room for the rest of time. Which is like the opposite of me and I honestly think that that's what makes our performance is like we're all and music as well. Like we're all so different. Like that it somehow brings it together. I don't know. I don't really know, but it works. I guess.
No, it's an incredible. I've often said that, and I've said it to many people, that you guys were the biggest surprise that I had as an event producer for Making Waves. Is that, like, I liked In the Battle Years, it like,
Yeah.
and there's certain songs that I loved more than other songs, but when you guys released The Wilder Beyond and stuff like that, I was like, wow, like, I love this record.
Cool.
Let's get them to play Making Waves. And I expect, having not seen you guys play live, having just seen videos that you've recorded kind of live off the floor or something like that on YouTube, and then when you guys came and played live, it was, I immediately went to people and was just like, that's the best performance we've ever had, because
Thank you.
of that energy and that group dynamic. So, um, yeah, I think that there's a lot of surprises for audiences who haven't seen you as well, in that the
Cool.
songs transition, they get a whole new perspective and a whole new feeling when they're performed live as opposed to in the studio.
And I think like for me as a also like being an audience member for other musicians like that's the thing that I look for the most in an artist is like does your show make me feel something?
Yeah,
Cuz I'm watching you like be completely vulnerable and completely exposed. If I don't feel anything, something's wrong. So I'm trying to like just be as honest as I can and just as like cuz I'm kind of like I'm a big personality. I see a spotlight and I run towards it. Like I'm owning that. The older I get, the more I'm like, you know what? It's fine. The world has to have people like me. So I try to just be as honest as I can about who I am and I think that that's like all anyone is trying to do ever
yeah,
so that when somebody sees that they're like, "Oh, okay, I can be myself. Let's all just be ourselves together." And that's like pretty cool to be able to like provide that experience for somebody or
yeah.
at least try to.
And it comes off very authentic. So I think
Cool.
that's a an endearing factor, or a way of connecting between the audience and the performer.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that it comes across cuz that's what I'm trying to do.
So I guess my last kind of last train of thought is kind of the different aspect of, so as the albums have gone on, it's kind of been split a little bit between Paul kind of being the front person and you being the front person, like equal amounts of singing, lots of harmonies and stuff like that. But with Paul writing most or all of the lyrics,
All of it, yeah.
what is it like as a performer to perform words that somebody else has written, but also like, do you feel that you're able to emotionally connect to those words?
Yeah, I think it would depend on the words that you're singing, but Paul, I would say, and have said many times, is probably one of the best songwriters that I've ever uh, heard. Like his songs are incredible, and he's a storyteller, and he tells stories that you can find yourself in, if that makes any sense. Like every time I learn one of his songs, I'm like, holy shit, like that's what happened to me last week or whatever, not something that trivial, but I guess short answer, yes. Like I have never felt um false singing his words. It just feels real and authentic, and um I think that that's just Paul's writing. It's just
Yeah.
it's just so good that you can find yourself in any of the songs, which is really cool. Like that's because then you can sing it authentically, and it's not like you're putting on a show that's not real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, some of the themes within the music, like there's often themes in the lyrics, anyways, of, you know, struggling, but there's also a hopefulness
We
within
call
that.
this defiant joy.
Well, that was actually the word that I'd written down was defiance, and there's a lot, like I grew up a punk kid. I still play in punk bands and stuff like that, and I'm very like our music is very like socially motivated kind of thing like that, but we're very upfront about that.
Yeah, yeah.
um, you guys also are really upfront about that too. It's like, I won't be broken, or I'm gonna fight it. I'm gonna fight through this fight. Does like is that a collective?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think when people hear this record, it'll be interesting to talk about how that came to be. Like we had a meeting uh a long time ago after we were sort of planning this record but didn't have any songs because everything was very new. Um and we basically just sat down and came up with what we wanted the album to be about before any of the songs existed. And it was all of those things. As you know, I think that is one of the reasons why it's so easy for me to just take the song on as my own, because uh, it's a human struggle. It's
Yeah,
not just Paul's struggle; it's everybody's struggle. And so yeah, we did that. Like we actually intentionally sat down and said, what do we want to write about? What do we want to say as a band, as a group of people in the world? Um, and so this album, like The Wilder Beyond, it has that vibe, but it was less intentional. This one is like every song is on the record because of uh, what it's about. So I'm glad that defiant joyfulness came across to you, because that's like when someone asks me what Paul's songs are like, that's literally what I say. Like
yeah,
the struggle is real, but there's hope.
yeah. And I think that's a great message, especially in that generation that I guess the age group of everybody in your band up to maybe the mid 40s at this
Yeah,
point. um we're living in a different world than our parents lived in,
absolutely.
and although we're all struggling to come to terms with the world being different than what our expectations were given to us as we grew up, we still haven't given up as people,
Yeah.
you know so yeah, I
Go
hear
go
lots of
us.
that.
Go team.
Yeah, And I mean, I find that that's a common theme, whether it's really upfront, like Rundown is really upfront about that.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the songs in uh, on the Wilder Beyond are like the theme is definitely still there. It's just written in a perspective that's maybe a little bit more, under the surface and stuff like that. So I love the idea that you know just not giving up, kind of thing like that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's so easy to give up.
it's literally so the easiest thing to do in the world. The songs are really great. We're really excited to hear more with the new record. Where can people hear the stuff that's already out?
Anywhere, all the internet places. It's all collected in one place if you go to our website, hillsburn.com, but you can find us on Facebook or Instagram or Spotify or Apple Music, all the things. Bandcamp. I don't know, what else is there? Amazon, probably. I don't know.
And beyond, in isolation times, I know that you've been kind of putting some covers out on Facebook and different things like that.
I've been having a blast. Nigel, our manager, was like, "Put it on the Hillsburn page." I was like, "Okay."
So, if people want to hear more of that kind of stuff, where do they find it on social?
Well, they find it right now on my personal Instagram, which is great question, me. I don't know what it is. I think it's R_Burrill maybe, but I think I'm gonna move some of those over to the Hillsburn page. So just go follow Hillsburn and you should be good.
So we'll leave it at that, and I'll turn the camera back over to you.
Cool. I'm just going to do a little bit of tuning.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for having me. This has been really nice. This one's called Slipping Away. But down this strange road we go, through hope and doubt and shadows. I know you're the only sure thing I've found. Time keeps slipping and slipping and slipping and slipping away. Time keeps slipping and slipping and slipping and slipping away. Now when it rains, it's alright, just leave it rain on me. Flood it over my head. Flood it over my head. Time goes by too quickly. Blink, you're 6, you're 60. Lie with me on the lawn, just breathing those bygones gone. Time keeps slipping, 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 slipping away. Time keeps slipping, 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 slipping away. Time So this is the last song on the record as it stands right now. I sort of feel like I was saying to my bandmates that this album feels like kind of like a lullaby for like your life. And this next song was the one that made me feel the most like that. Like it's, I don't know, it's like the lullaby you needed or you didn't know you needed to get to sleep. I don't know. Anyway, this is the lullaby-y song, so I thought I would end off with that. It's called Under the Rainbow. I read the headlines, I watch the sky, arrange my face for purposeful pantomime. I go to work, I return from work, and I'm not sad. Earthquake evenings, what a day I've had. Love me right now under the rainbow. Banquet the tables, dance in a house on fire, and I'll hang on somehow under the rainbow, singing my fables of places where bluebirds fly. Good night now. We nursed on spaceships and Ferris wheels. Now when I use my eyes, oh how my empire reels. I drink it away. Let the blur devour every end of the day. Oh, love me right now under the rainbow. Banquet the tables, dance in a house on fire, and I'll hang on somehow under the rainbow, singing my fables of places where bluebirds fly. Good night, do 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 do.